Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 143.
143, and we've got an amazing episode lined up for you guys today. It's going to be super awesome because, we've got a celebrity on the show.
Yeah, we do. And here's the thing. It's one of those things that before the podcast, like you watch people, right? And you're like, I wonder how they are in real life, right? But this guy is legit. And, if you ever watch baggage battles, and you can always catch baggage battles somewhere on the internet somewhere, and it
lives on the internet.
It was kind of like one of those things that inspired me to like start reselling. So it's awesome to finally have it on. We were joking before the podcast that it took a quarantine or whatever for us to finally get together and make this happen. So we're excited to have Mark Meyer on the podcast tonight. So tell us a little bit about who you are and where can people find you, and then we'll get into the details.
Hey everyone. So my name is Mark Meyer, and I go by Mark Meyer here, and I've been reselling for 11 years now. I started in 2009 with my business, and I actually started when I was about 14, 15 years old. I started going to garage sales, and I found a model ship, and I lied and said that I was 18 years old and got a checking account, and I started selling under my parents' name on eBay. And then when I was 18, I finally got an account of my own. And I really enjoy selling tools, electronics, vintage items, antiques. I love jewelry, as well as lots of other items. So I'm here to share some wisdom. I'm here to have a good time and answer some questions today.
Man, that's awesome. And it's really cool. I think there's this theme that I see running through a lot of our guests is reselling or just hustling seems to start really young. Like it's just in your blood, right? So like you started at 14 flipping model ship. What were some of those first sales and what really got you hooked? Like, you know what, this is something I could do.
So the first thing I bought was an old Aurora model. I was at a yard sale and they had a sticker for $5. And I was like, I think I borrowed like $5 from my mom to buy it.
Hey, you took out your first business loan, right?
Yeah, I took out my first business loan, $5. And the guy says to me, he goes, hey, that's worth a lot of money. You should put it online. And I said to myself, thanks, old man, I will. and I put it online and it sold for $67 plus shipping. And I packed it and I used like paper towels and I bagged everything up really nice and I padded it and everything. And the guy gave me like a really positive, lengthy review of like, oh my God, beautiful packing job. And I was like, man, maybe I'm good at this. And I remember saying to myself, I made $50 in 35 minutes of work. And my friends are at Adventureland working for $5.15 an hour right now. And I'm like, I'm not going to Adventureland. I'm doing this. And I doubled down on that. And that was the first flip. After that, I remember like one of my first storage units, I think my third storage unit, I picked up a gold Omega watch with a bad casing that sold for $350. And I remember like just looking at all the stuff saying, if I only had more time, more truck, and more money, I could make a ton of money. And I got hooked. And I'm still hooked. It's every day's like Christmas.
That's awesome.
Okay, so talk to us a little bit about that because we had talked before the podcast. A lot of good info you already shared with us. So you're a finance major, and then you were looking for work, and you started reselling during the recession of 2008, around that time. So what led you to that, and was it doable?
Yeah. So I started when I was 16. I've always been flipping. It was lawn mowers. It was everything. It was lemonade stands, whatever it was. I wanted it. By the time I graduated college, I went to school for finance and I said to myself, before I go get an office job, I'm going to try this auction thing. I gotta try it.
Really?
And I went and I basically went to an auction. I scouted it. I saw these people buying so much product for so little money. I was like, you got to be foolish not to make money in this business. I was like, it's everywhere. So I went there, talked to some people. By my second auction, I was like, yo, I want to buy something. By the third one, I went and got my business license. I never applied for a single job. I dove head in. And one thing I want to say, for the recession that's coming right now, secondhand markets do very, very well in recessions. They are recession-proof industries.
Nice.
So I started and I watched the cliff in 2008, 2009. We studied it crashing before our very eyes. And my business has done well ever since because there's always a need for discounted product. There's always a need that, there's going to be things out there that people can't afford the whole price. So buy secondhand, it's less packaging, and you get a great deal.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean,
it's so encouraging to hear.
Yeah, we talk all the time on the podcast. That's one of the questions we often ask, is what do you think the future of reselling is? Because, Orlando's been reselling a lot longer than I have. I've only been reselling for a couple of years. I mean, like you, I started hustling young, but I didn't take this seriously until a couple of years ago. And, we always say like, okay, like what is it going to look like in a recession? Because when I started, it was like things were booming. It was like, if you're not making money, like you don't know what you're doing, right? Like it's just money everywhere. But it's good to hear that somebody who's been reselling for so long, who went through it, actually has, firsthand experience that it works and it does well. Now with the auctions, so you were going to like storage units to buy auctions?
So I'm a auction professional, if you will. Like I love auctions. I've been to hundreds of different types of auctions. I go to mostly liquidation auctions, bankruptcies. I'll do like seize goods. I'll do court case goods, and I'll do liquidation sales and bankruptcy. Any company downsizing or closings is a popular one. And there are so many things I love about auctions, but I'm going to let you ask the questions. So hit me with your best ones.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, like, did you get started, like, because I don't know the timeline there, was like Storage Wars and those type of shows already like a thing? Did that get you inspired on it? Or were you like in that before?
So I was 17 in a deli one morning, and I was getting I used to be a foreman on a job site, and I was getting everyone coffee and bagels, and this guy was next to me talking about bearer bonds. So he was jazzed up. His best friend won a storage room, and he actually went into he bought a room, an entire room, and it had $25,000 in bearer bonds.
Wow.
And he was like, I'm going to the next auction. I can't believe it, blah, 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 blah. And I asked him, I said, what are you talking about? He goes, auctionzip.com. And this was way before anybody heard about it. And auctionzip.com is still an amazing resource. And I went there as I got older, and I was like, I got to go check this thing out. I really want to check it out. And I love numbers. I like making money. I like abundance. I like getting lots of stuff and being able to like have cool projects in the shop.
Oh, that's awesome.
So talk to me, because right now what I find, so in San Diego, most of our auctions have gone online. Like I mean, there's still some in person. Is that a trend where you're at? Or like, number one, do you prefer live over online? And are there advantages to one over the other?
So there are advantages to each. I so prefer live auctions. And I prefer live auctions that are Monday through Friday. Those Saturday auctions, I don't really like as much because they're not professional auctions. They're more weekend warriors. They're not professional bidders in attendance. There's more weekend warrior, homeowner weekend stuff. If it's a Monday through Friday sale and I can see valuation of $300,000 to $500,000 or more, I'm in. And and the lots are big. That is what gets my juices going. And to share, when I got started, I had just opened up a thrift shop, and we were doing storage auctions for years. And then the TV shows hit and rocked that whole industry. So overnight, the TV shows came out, and then instantly storage auction prices tripled and quadrupled, and attendance went up fourfold. Wow. So we used to have 5 people at an auction, 8 people at an auction. Then we were going 40. Wow. And then a year after that, there were 80 people deep at an auction, and then you couldn't buy a room for under 500. So long story short, I'm grateful because I said, you know what, this storage thing, I'm out. I'm going to go do other auctions. So I got into police auctions, property auctions, liquidations, downsizing, bankruptcy. I sidestepped the whole thing. I was like, I can't deal with the competition. We go to these other auctions, there was no competition. So we did, and that's still like that. And with that being said, I did very well there. And then I got approached to do a TV show on lost and stolen property. So it was pretty much perfect.
Yeah, that's awesome. I need to watch the show. I haven't seen it yet. I know Orlando's seen it.
I've watched multiple episodes multiple times because it's entertaining. I mean, so here's my question. So I'm watching the show, and it's intimidating. Like I would say, and I've been to auctions, and I look like an intimidating guy, but I get intimidated. And so I'm watching. And so what would you tell somebody that's an introvert, somebody that's shy, or somebody that like trying to angle their way into a live auction? Because I've seen it there. They're the people that are the OGs at the auctions, and they'll throw their weight around. I mean, I've been there where I've had people just throw a number right in front of me to get me to back off. So how do you angle your way if you're trying to get in there?
If you're a new person and you want to step into auctions, the way that you go about that, observe.
Okay.
I recommend you observe 1, 2, 3, 4 auctions before you go to buy. All right. The challenge is that most people get caught up in auction fever. And the TV shows will teach you, oh, the biggest guys, the ones that make the most money, are the ones spending the big bucks. That's a lie. The guys who are calm, cool, and collected, sitting with their notepads, those are generally the ones that are doing very well. And they don't get emotional. They set, best thing you could do, set your limit before the auction, because when in the moment, your blood is pumping and your adrenaline's going and you just want to win, especially if you're competitive. Don't let emotions run your game, or the game will be ran on you. So be rigid in what you're willing to pay for it. Do your research and always go to the preview. Always. Nice. The preview is the difference between getting a great deal and getting a pile of crap because you didn't have time to look at it. So that's my, I'm going to give out tons of great advice this podcast. So keep tuned.
Oh, trust me, I'm going to be taking notes because I mean, auctions is one thing I haven't really gotten into. I tried one time. Orlando knows that I'm into like video equipment and things like that. And so he sent me that he'd found a video photography school was shutting down. It had, went bankrupt or whatever. And so they were auctioning off a lot of their stuff. And he's like, hey, you know some of these things. So I tried and I put in a bunch of bids online. But what I noticed, what was kind of difficult for me, and even though I knew that industry, most of the equipment that was up for sale, I had never seen before. I'd never heard of before. And so I'm trying to look things up. I can only imagine what it's like when you're going to an auction and like you said, there's big lots of things. How much research are you doing on each individual item? Or do you just kind of have like general knowledge where you say like, hey, like these types of things sell? Like what kind of research goes before you say, here's what I'm willing to spend on a lot or certain things?
So I do quick math. So when I'm there, and also this answer is very wide.
Okay.
So it depends, and some previews are 8 hours long before the day of the auction. Some are a half day. Most of them are 1 hour before the sale.
Wow.
So there are times that I'll walk into a building. I'll give you my rundown. I mean, this is worth hundreds of dollars to someone.
Thank you for sharing with us.
You're welcome. The way that I run an auction, if there's 1,000 lots and I have 1 hour, I go backwards. I take my catalog out and I go from 989 and I go backwards and I walk the auction completely backwards. And the reason I do that is because I want to spot the tickets at the end of the sale, because the way that the curve goes is the first hour goes up and up and up and up. And then the price per item, relative price per item, peaks about 1 to 2.5 hours into the auction. And then people start to run out of money, patience, hunger, and they start to go down. And now they're out of truck and they're out of equipment and they're tired. And boom, Mark gets a pallet for 300.
Nice.
You're right. That was an excellent tip. All right, keep going. Sorry.
So now there are some exceptions to that. Sometimes the auctioneers will stagger the best generally if they're intelligent, they're going to put the best items in the beginning of the middle. So that they have the max attendance. It's like a huge graph, and I love these things. And the best deals, most of the time, the best deals I've gotten has been right at the jump off of the auction, because people are still like getting their coffee and they're not really there yet, or someone's late in traffic because we live in New York. But most of the time, I'm killing it at the mid to the end of the auction, and I put a lot of heavy weight there because my competition is tired, they're hungry, they're grumpy, and they're out of truck and they're out of men. So that's usually where I place my bets. And that's like $1 million tip.
Literally $1 million tip. Yeah, you play it right.
Now, what do you do? I've always wondered, and we've talked to some other people who do like storage units, and I'm sure it's a little different, but I'm sure you've got a big truck that you load up with stuff. Do you ever have like inventory that's in a lot that's like, this isn't something I need to sell, or it's kind of junk I need to get rid of? Or how do you deal with like excess stuff that you get? Or is it all like everything I get, I'm going to flip it and I'm going to sell it?
So that it was a great question. So the question is, what do I do with the excess stuff? Let's say what I would call C grade stuff, C, D grade type of inventory. It's not good enough. Maybe it's good enough to be listed, but it's like, you're making like $15 an hour kind of stuff. What I do with that stuff is I will bring it to an open air market. We'll palletize it and put it into like the antique/garage sale section that we have here. Or I will send it, and this is more likely, I'll send it out to auctions. So I have an auction in Pennsylvania that works with me. And if I have excess tools that I didn't pay a lot of money for, I'll send them. And on average, a pallet of tools will get between $300 and $600, depending on quality. If we have excess like building materials, we'll send it to a building material auction. When we buy the big lots, what we're really doing is scanning for the online stuff, listing the best of the best, parting off what we can on the marketplace or Craigslist, and then the remainder we're bulking it out, either to a garage sale or an antique market or to an auction. And in that way, we can keep processing through the stuff quickly to move through it.
That's good. Now, my question is, okay, so that's live. So online auctions, I find it's more, I think it's more difficult because you have a lot more time to research, right? You could go to the live. I know online auctions have live sessions too, but it's all out there, right? And so if you have access to like a computer, you can, search things. So are there advantages to the online auctions? And what are those that you're willing to share?
I'll share it all. So the advantage of an online auction is you're sitting on your butt at home, and you're in your own element. So I can run my business and do an online auction while the guys are in the shop. A advantage of an online auction, you can go to many of them on the same day.
Okay.
Something you can't do. You cannot do that with a live auction. Second, there may be there's advantages. Like for instance, when you're at a live auction, you may have a glimpse of something, but at least with an online auction, you know what you're getting. And honestly, some of the online auctions by me, they're doing really good jobs. Like they scan a standard $50 item will have 6 to 8 photos. And with barcodes or everything. So they're getting really so. And what I mean by that is bidding programs going at it.
You mean bots? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. So you can have snipe bots. You can have sniping programs that work on your behalf, and they can work well. I went to an auction recently, $1.5 million sale last year in Connecticut, and it was probably 2 to 3 million in gross, and their cost was 1.5 mil. And I think it sold altogether for like 400,000 gross in total. So now it was 10 cents on the dollar for everything. Yeah. It was phenomenal. The challenge was they kept doing this thing where they grouped 6 online like lots, and then it was high bidder choice of those 6. So what happened is you were bidding against people. You might want A, you might want B, and I want D. And we're all going head to head. And then at the end, the high bidder gets to pick which lot he wants.
Wow.
All right. That is a rare event. And I do recommend online auctions. They are the way of the future. It has been a progressive thing every year that I've been a reseller. More and more live auctions go online. So don't fight it. Work with it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
It makes me kind of sad, I've been doing a lot of retail arbitrage on eBay to eBay, and I've been finding all kinds of stuff on auction. Not the same as what you're talking about, but it's been really good. So, my question now is, okay, so you get all that stuff and you have multiple platforms, right? Because you saw on eBay and you saw on Amazon and so on. So how do you decide what goes where? And I know you've mentioned ASP and other shows, but can you share us a little bit, what do you do with each platform?
Yeah. All right. So I also want to share that my average sales price, my ASP, floats between 75 and 85.
Okay.
My intention when I buy products is to buy depth. And when I look at a product, I won't deal in $20 items, but I will deal in $10, $20 items.
Right.
I will deal in like quantity of those specifics. How do I know which platform it's going to go on? First up, barcodes get scanned into Amazon all the time.
Okay.
So that's the first, we're going to check out if it's got a barcode, beep, beep, it's in the system.
Now, do you sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, man, so rude. I just want, do you use a scanner? Do you use the Amazon Seller app? Or are you using Inventory Lab? Like, how practical? Okay. I just want everybody to be aware. Okay.
Yeah. And they also might not get the audio, but we use Symbol Motorola scanners. These are about $250 a piece. We use the nicer ones, and I recommend the hell out of them. I can gun like 4 feet off my desk and still hit the target. And we buy them refurbished, and they're amazing. Yeah. So okay. I use the Amazon Seller app. If I need information about it, I'll use Keepa in with an Internet Explorer. So do you guys know about Keepa?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So Keepa is one of the best programs I know of. And I use Keepa on it every day. And actually, I think it's Scoutly now. Or anyway, the Keepa charts are amazing. They tell us all pricing, everything. We could scan something. It could have a really good sales rank. And then we come back and we're like, why is it $150? This thing has like a $49 MSRP.
Yeah.
And you can get really excited about that stuff. But with the Keepa, you can see last year, this is what they sold for. This is what they sold, and they give you all the information. So how do I know which product is going where? First up, when I buy it, I usually have an idea of what I want to do with it.
Okay.
The first thing I'll do, if you're dealing in the secondhand stuff, I really don't think that that's really Amazon stuff, unless it's video games, DVDs, and something highly specific like those VCR players. I don't really put secondhand stuff on Amazon. It's generally if it's new and it's minty. All right, it's in good packaging and it can be new. That will get scanned and put on Amazon. After that, if it's collectible, if it's antique, secondhand, cool, it goes on eBay. If it is not valuable, like more than $10, we will lot them. So we had a lot of Disney memorabilia. Each thing's worth $3. I won't bother listing. And when I say $3, it's a $9 shipped item, but I call it a $3 item because that's really what it is. So we'll put 10, 20, 30 items like that together, get a bundle, and take 80 for it. So we do bigger. My intention is to make more money and work less. So the only way that I figured out how to do that is to make the lots bigger so we can go through the product faster because there's no shortage of inventory anywhere.
Nice. Now, the question too is, so Amazon, you're engaged in a lot of categories, and then eBay, you sell secondhand stuff. Now, do you use the other platforms at all, or are you strictly eBay, Amazon?
If it's large, if it's not shippable, we will put it on Marketplace. So things like that are furniture, mirrors, lamps, lights, porcelain, dishware sets. Those are all Facebook Marketplace.
Okay.
I think Facebook Marketplace is the #1 underrated site right now for selling stuff. Craigslist has really gone downhill. Facebook has taken over like a storm, and you can do paid promotions, which net you, they're amazing. So
I know I sold an espresso machine for $1,000 that I was like, how am I going to offload this? And Facebook Marketplace, within 24 hours, I had people wanting to buy it. So I 100% agree with you. So
yeah, I want to add, there's a group for everything.
Yeah, that's true.
So I bought an entire estate of ham radio equipment. I got in 2 ham radio groups. These guys are giving me all this information. They want to buy all the stuff, no fees, no nothing. It's a great resource. So don't underestimate Facebook. It is totally undervalued and underrated right now.
That's a great tip. I don't think we've ever talked about that.
Yeah, like actually using groups, even for knowledge and then to offload. That's
well, because I had somebody at one time mention, like, I had this Pendleton blanket, and he's like, hey, join our Pendleton group. Just throw your blanket up and somebody will buy it. I should have followed advice. I still sold it. But so you're saying you go into the Facebook groups and you just kind of connect with people and go, hey, anybody have any information? And then people will say, hey, you know what? I want to buy that. Is that how it works?
So the way to get around it, most Facebook groups have a gatekeeper that says no ads.
Okay.
So the way to get around that is you post up, like I took a photo with 2 racks of equipment on my Instagram, you can see, and it was a show off photo, but it was also, hey, this is what I got. So I put in there, hey, I just cleaned out an estate, going to get these cleaned up, loved up, and shipped out, to 180 countries around the world. So I was bragging, showing off. It got 500 likes, and I got 3 DMs saying, hey, so I want that Collins. I want that one on the shelf.
Nice,
what do you got? And like you, sometimes I list it anyway because I don't want to do the back and forth. And I don't really know what they're worth. So with eBay, you can auction it, and at least many people saw it. So if it went for 500, then that's probably what it was worth. And I'm saying it was a good resource. I did sell. We sold a 40-foot radio tower on Facebook.
Wow, that's intense.
Yeah. So we put it. I couldn't move it, so I had to put it up as a local sale.
Okay.
So do you do auctions? So you mentioned, kind of letting the market figure out the value of an item via the auction feature on eBay. Do you auction many of your things, or you kind of primarily buy it now prices?
If we can value it, we do buy it now. If we can't assess, or we don't know, or we want them to battle it out, we do auctions. And of the ham radio equipment, some of it's so rare and so old that we really don't know what they are. So we'll set it at a minimum that we think, or even like sometimes a lofty auction price, and let it go to an auction to see who bites on it. After that, here's my recommendation. If you have a $400 pair of whatever sneakers, or $400 microphone set, or whatever you got, if there are no comps and you throw it up for an auction for $399 and it doesn't sell, and you do it again for $399 and it doesn't sell, you're too high.
That's a good tip.
You can go down. And if there's no watchers and no bids, that's your feedback. You're way too high. So generally I'll lower it and then go $299, $199, and I'll keep going down, and then I'll go in $50 increments. The perfect sell cycle is to drop your price slowly over time. That's your perfect like equilibrium.
That's good. So that leads into the next question. So it seems like you're fast nickel as far as like you want to recoup like the money that you spend, so you list the high end items as soon as you can. Now, are you slow dime on some items? Like, are you willing to wait things out, or is it like, hey, I get so much inventory, I got to move all of it?
So there is a question. I spoke to Chris about this recently. When you list, are you interested? These are the questions I want you to ask yourself. Am I interested in money right now, or am I interested in getting space?
Okay, that's a good. Yeah.
Those two questions are going to answer what you're going to list and for how much. You can have, you could put like 36 shirts in a bin or something like that, and that could be $600. But then we'll put like a bicycle or something else, and you want to sit on that? Nah, sit on the t-shirts, but don't sit on the bike. Don't sit on the big stuff. You're in San Fran. You know how expensive real estate is. You need to use your space. Those bigger items, I'd be going for the fast nickel. And on the shirts, I'd be getting the slow dime because they take up so little room. I don't mind waiting on it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good rule of thumb. Kind of think of the space to.
I'm just thinking of my storage unit. How many times I'm walking around like a coffee machine that I'm like, I should have just flipped that fast, and it's just sitting there and in my way every time. So that's good.
Yeah, you still have it?
I still have it. Yeah.
Okay. What you gonna do with it? I'm
gonna lower the price.
Yeah.
It's on Facebook Marketplace. It's just I wanted a certain dollar amount, but now I'm like, nah, because I'm tired of tripping over it.
Yeah, sometimes you can get tunnel vision. Like that's kind of like the counting your chickens before they hatch. Like you think like I'm going to make X amount on an item, and so you get locked into this is what I'm going to make, as opposed to I just need to make profit, move it, and then reinvest this capital.
Yeah, you don't always know how it's going to turn out as a reseller until you're done.
Yeah.
And the question that I often ask myself, if I know that it was a good deal, would I do it again?
So true.
It's a great question, and if I can't answer with certainty, I won't do it again.
I want people to understand how much experience Mark has. Mark, you've been doing this for, let's say, professionally, at least a decade, right? But more than a decade.
More than a decade.
Full time.
Full time.
All right. No, and I just want to be clear because, people define full time a certain way, but this is like your bread. This is what you do.
I would say there are times I've even been double time. So not full time, but like double time, answering emails in bed before, answering eBay questions and stuff, rolling over. Yeah. I work a lot and I want a great abundant life. So part of that is putting in the work to be able to afford what I want to step into. And so to share, I've also sold $1 million in goods on the internet. So I didn't realize that till recently. It doesn't seem like a lot now, but that's a lot of feedback and a lot of hundreds and thousands of packages. So
So let's park it there a little bit. So, I know you travel a lot because sometimes I see on Instagram, you're like in a different continent and you're seeing other people and so on. But we've always said that reselling is a lifestyle. Would you agree with that? And what allows you to step away from your business?
So reselling is a lifestyle for sure. I mean, we are an interesting, and I say this with terms of endearment. We're a cool bunch of cats. Like definitely it's fun to hang around other resellers, and then you don't feel ashamed when you're like, yeah, I walked by this dumpster and pulled out this gorgeous set of golf clubs, and it's like this like PlayStation 1 or original Nintendo. Yeah, I pulled it out. I saved it.
Yep.
Yeah. I took a break because I got lost in the question.
No. It was a two-part question. No, it's all good. So, but you're able to travel, right?
Yeah, you asked me about travel and the reseller lifestyle.
Yeah, and so you obviously have a team that runs things when you're traveling, right? It's not like you just put your store on vacation and you're like, I'm out for like a month or two.
No.
I don't think anybody has this full time. So let's talk about that team mentality. So when did you start scaling, and how did you know it was the right time to start scaling?
So I started scaling like my second or third year full time. The time is the biggest commodity that I have. And it gets to a point where for one, you need an extra guy. Like I deal in bigger stuff. So for one, it's always nice to have a 2-man lift. When should you scale? When you can afford to scale and you want to scale. Okay. Some people, if you're content with shipping 2 hours a day and you're content with the money that you're making, don't make any changes. If you're content and you're happy, like I'll meet you where you're at. If you're hungry and you want to grow and you want to see those digits grow and you want to support and keep growing, you get to scale. You have to. So that's what I would ask you to is like, when you can afford it for one. And even if you can't afford it, if you hire people to list for you and they're doing a good job, they're going to generate the money to pay themselves. Mm-hmm. So it really does work. And how that gets to look is really up to you. And there's a lot of support out there for you to help grow your business.
Now, go ahead.
I was going to say, so you're clearly very passionate about like, going and finding awesome things and the excitement you get sourcing and all of that. We primarily do, or at least I primarily do, thrift stores, garage sales. Do you do any of that? Do you still go to like garage sales? Or are you like, I'm going big and that's it?
So I go big. And I really invite you to do the same, because and this is something I want to share with you and I want to share with the listeners. If you want to scale and you want to buy, in order to sell well, you have to buy well. Okay. And the better that you buy, the better that you can sell well. So I really encourage you to buy in bulk, because you're going to be able to get an entire truckload as opposed to driving around to 8 to 9, 10 sales in a day, which I've done. I've done it for years. And going there and competing with other people and getting things really cheap. When you buy a pallet at a sale, or you buy an entire office or an entire garage of stuff, the ROI is unbelievable. All right. And I promise you, once you do that, you're going to be like, I don't know if I'm going to go to that garage sale today. It's kind of far.
Yeah.
Because like you're burning fuel, your time, your Saturday. And most of the days when I would go around yard selling, I'll do some math. I would go to 8 to 12 sales in a day. And I would probably spend about $200, maybe $300 in the day. And that would be $1,200 gross. Mm-hmm. Maybe like a 400% markup or something like that gross. And by the time I cleaned everything, listed, sorted, did it all that, the math wasn't working out to be enough money to pay everyone. But when you go to a sale and you get 2 pallets for $600 that make you $6,000, it's like
we should just end the podcast right now. No! We're not going to distribute this information. Mike and I are going to go to auctions like right now.
So there are also one thing I want to add. There's a lot of opportunities outside of auctions. So the deal I just got with the ham radio equipment, I bought the entire estate for $3,000, $1,000 in labor. And transportation and fuel. And I got 4,000 into this load, and I bought a 22-foot trailer packed that we packed by hand. They packed my 22-foot trailer, and I brought that home, and that equated to about 5.5 pallets worth of really good stuff. including 2 pallets of just radios and equipment for eBay. So like when you do those big jobs, and I know you can, and I know that the people listening to the podcast, you have the ability to go to do these bigger jobs. If you don't just lily pad till you get there, go rent a truck, go do what you have to, and get those bigger loads, and you're gonna skip past yard sales after that. Okay. I still stop to see, like, if they're on my block, but I can't take a Saturday and go drive around the 9 sales to fill like a quarter of a truck, because I could fill an entire truck in a day at an auction. So yeah, those are giving out those tips today.
Yeah, you definitely are.
Now, are there like certain things, like when you go to an auction that like that's your thing, like you mentioned, like electronics or furniture, or is it kind of like if it makes money, I'm picking it up? And like, how did you start to learn all those niches? Was it just over time, or did you go and focus like, man, I really like electronics, or was there a specific thing you were focused on to start with?
Yeah. So I'm most passionate about tools. I love tools, and those I really am passionate about that. I'm also passionate about restoration, taking these items and taking them out of like the dusty places and then putting them online after we clean them up and getting them into the hands of people who can appreciate them. And that's really what I'm passionate about. I love old electronics. I like stuff that people don't know what they are sometimes. And when I go to an auction, generally the stuff in the tools world, rigid, old Delta, really high end old tools, Hilti. Those are some of the Snap-on. I'm sure of you know. Those are some of the top of line tools that I'll go after. If there's an auction, I almost always go after small items that are worth a lot of money. As a reseller, we all love Postal Service first class mail, and it kills me when I sell a $50 item and it costs me $32 to ship. You know, and I give the money away to the post office or the UPS. I love when I sell a $50 item and it comes in a little 2-ounce mailer.
Yeah,
$3.
So wait, I want to say something real quick. This is one of the first few podcasts that I've seen Mike consistently taking notes. Like we're being educated right now.
Like we started the
like podcast. I'm looking, I'm going like, what is he taking notes on? Like it's something to edit? No, he's taking like legit notes for reselling.
So when you're picking up tools, and I'm glad I'm glad I found somebody who's like knowledgeable and passionate about them, because I see them. And again, this is totally different because it's garage sales different, but I see people with tons of tools, tons of old rusty, and I don't even look at them because it's not something I'm familiar with. If I want to start learning this niche and I'm going to like look things up and brands and things like that, is it worth, like when you see like rusty old wrenches and rusty, like they look old and beat up, are they still worth money, or are you looking for like pristine vintage tools?
So I'm always looking for quantity, and I'm always looking for name brands. So they only need to know 3 in mechanics tools: Snap-on, Matco, and Mac. If they're rusty, still pick them up for $1 or less. If they're Craftsman, if they're Taiwan, just stay away. The benefit is when someone rolls out a tool chest and it's high quality tools, which is rare in a garage sale. It's very rare that someone rolls out, unless it's like the perfect story of the grandmother rolled out the tool chest, right? And she said, "Oh, give me $40, honey," right? And like that's a very rare story. What's more common? This is really what's more common. A guy rolls out a tool chest. It's got some mixed tools in it, but it's got some good ones in there. We buy the tool chest for $100. We sell the tool chest itself for $75, and then you have 100 pieces on the inside. So quick valuation, when you're looking at tool chest or you're looking at big lots, how many items are in the lot? Divide that by your price. I know it sounds simple, but very few people do it. And I don't know why more don't do it. But when you really value it out per item, things make a lot of sense very quickly.
That's good.
Okay, so I'm going to ask another selfish question, because I've been wanting to scale more and more, and I'm not anywhere close to where you are. So I've had a helper like do listing. I sell primarily clothing, and I enjoy it. But the question I always get is like, Orlando, it's so hard to find somebody to like trust with my inventory, with my listing. So how did you go about it? Like, is it somebody that you knew that somebody vouched for? Did you put a listing somewhere and you interviewed people? How'd you go about making your team? And what's been the turnover like been on your team, if you want to share?
So the turnover has been 2 years for me. At the start of this year, I hired 2 new people. I hired a shipping manager and I hired a lister full time, and he did Amazon. That guy did Amazon before he came in the door. So I hunted out people that had experience for one.
Okay.
That's an important thing. And this other guy has his own eBay store. The thing is, he didn't have the infrastructure and he wanted to make a steady paycheck. There are plenty of people that will trade their time for a steady paycheck. And in New York, and to be honest, like in New York, what it takes to pay people here is we pay them a fair wage.
Yeah. No, it's the same thing here.
Yeah. And you have to in order to attract talent. And the difference between you hiring someone at 15 an hour and you giving a more appropriate wage is so small to your business that you really want the talent more than you need the money.
Yeah.
And the employees show up better when they're being paid more. So how I found my guy used to work at a recycling center and he used to oversee the eBay department. He wasn't that great with eBay, and I'm improving. I have an 8-page manual on how I list. And really, for the people listening that ask the question, how can I trust someone to do my listings? The question is, what space are you allowing mistakes? If you're expecting them to show up in 99.9% accuracy, then you're not allowing them the space for you to be a boss. You're only allowing space to micromanage them to the smallest, finest detail. And you're giving them this much room to mess up. That's the context you're holding for someone that I can't trust someone to do my listing. Okay. Because we know there's a lot of people that do average listings and they work. But my acceptance level is full titles, full categories, full everything. And that takes time. But as a boss, you have to allow some room for trust and mistakes. And if control is the issue, have them write 20 drafts and go through the drafts with them. One at a time. Make notes. My guy, when he's done listing 20 and I go back in and I see a mistake, I write it down in our morning meeting. I ask him, I show him where it's at, and we address it. And he's still learning. He's been with me 4 months now. And he's still learning. It takes 6 months for me to get them really good. And the last manager I had was 2 years. And he went out and he's currently grossed $34,000 on Amazon this month.
Nice.
So my turnover is after you work for me for 2 years, you can go do it yourself and make more money.
Yeah, you're creating your own competition.
And you graduate from Mark University.
Nice. It's a good place to be.
Yeah.
So let's get current now a little bit. So how has the current situation affected your business? The pandemic, whatever you want to call it, the situation we're in right now, how has that affected business for you?
So initially, it ticked up and then Amazon stopped at, you know what? Sales are rising because of the type of work we're doing and the fact that I can't be out buying more inventory. So I'm hyper focused on what I have. Technically, sales are up for what we have in the systems right now. And we're selling a lot of weird stuff. A lot of stuff that's been on the shelf a long time that I never thought would sell. We're pulling up, you're like, oh, that thing? Oh, all right. Yeah. And we're selling a lot of repair parts, a lot of parts people can't get right now, and a lot of projects. So.
Interesting. So so would you say sales have uptick, like they're better than they were before, or is it kind of at the same level?
Collectively, we could say e-commerce is up.
Okay.
As a whole, I have a lot of colleagues. I don't know about you guys, but there has been, I would say, maybe an 8% rise in traffic.
Oh, it's been good. It's been the best all year right now.
Yeah. I mean, part of that, there's lots of reasons, obviously economically, but I think just a very basic social reason is just boredom of so many people. They're at home. They're on people boredom buy, and so, like you said, the weird stuff, things that people are like, oh, and so, that stuff is going, and that's cool that you're able to experience that. Are you worried at all that, like you said, you're not able to source as much? Are you worried that you're going to get to a place where your inventory is shrinking faster than you're able to replenish it? And how long do you think it's going to take before you're able to start replenishing at a rate you're happy with?
So the benefit is when I want to replenish, I'll go and I'll purchase pallets at a time. So I have some outlets and I can make some phone calls to other businesses that are either down to 1 employee so they can be legal. Because here in New York, it's essential only. If you're in shipping and warehousing, you're allowed to be open. So that's how most of my colleagues are currently processing. I also wanted to say another reason that we're all doing very well, auction houses are not happening. Live auction houses. So the antique dealers and the buyers that are normally going out for their Friday night country style auction, they're not getting their Joneses. So they're going on eBay to support us. And that's where the traffic, I think, is headed. And also boredom, 100% boredom. I saw a meme that said, "Hey, somebody take away my credit card. This quarantine has done enough damage."
Yeah, it is strange. I mean, we've shared on the podcast how 3 weeks ago we had like 2 days where it was really bad. I think when everybody was like, "What? We're locked down. It was apocalypse. It was bad," and then just the swarm of sales, and they just have not stopped since then. So that's been good. So the question too is though, has this at all caused you to think differently about your business, or is it just reinforced that like this is what I need to keep doing and doing it this way?
It's reinforcing some things. It's reinforcing some factors. One is don't rely on one platform.
Okay.
So that's a big one. Amazon stopped FBA shipments. We were dismantling pallets that we had ready to go. That was like a whole So and being honest, I had 2 weeks of like I don't want I have people not showing up to work. They're shutting down roads. I mean, it's been dramatic. We're seeing National Guard trucks roll in. Like it's been dramatic in New York. And I'm handling it. And now that the water has calmed down, clarity has set in, and I know what I can do right now. I'm going to go after everything I can list. I'm going to go after my death pile with a vengeance. And I don't have a death pile. I have a death pallet of stuff that I was just like, $25. I don't want to deal with it. So with that being said, we're going to clean my intent. This is my intention. And this is what I want for all the listeners right now. When this quarantine is over, how do you be in a position where you have tons of storage and tons of cash?
Nice.
Because then this quarantine would be a real positive thing for your business. And we know that when this is over, what's going to happen in July or August or spring of next year, when everyone goes back and we start having garage sales, it's going to look like this. Boom. Yeah. All this merchandise, right? All these people are going to start buying and selling houses. The economy is going to spring back, and I feel like the flower is just going to open. And as a reseller, we're going to be like overwhelmed at that time. So set yourself up now. And that's what I'm working on. I'm going to set myself up now to get ultra light, cash rich, inventory light. And if I need inventory and we run out, I can make some phone calls to some businesses and buy some.
That's good. I like the way you sum that up there. Cash rich, inventory light. That's a great way to be.
A great goal
right now. Yeah. Build the capital and save the space. And then, for so many people, we just did an episode on Wednesday where we talked about if you could reset your reselling. And one of the things we talked about is like, sometimes people scale faster than they expect. And so their inventory process isn't where it could be. And so if you can start to clear out a lot of stuff, that gives you time too to get structures and things going in a way that'd be more efficient. So maybe something a little happier or weirder, I don't know. But what is the weirdest thing you've gotten in an auction where you were just like, I can't believe?
Well, I think we got to keep it PG. There's plenty out there in the auctions.
I'll keep it PG. Okay. Because the R-rated stuff is funny, and
I've heard that on other interviews. You found some crazy stuff out there. So.
Yeah. So I won't tell you the tale of the blue suitcase, but I will. All right. So one of the weirdest thing I ever bought was I bought a shark. Bruce Almighty. I bought a life-size shark.
Huh? Like shark as in.
All right. So.
Okay.
The shark from Finding Nemo, Bruce.
Okay.
He's 14 feet long.
Nice.
And he was made of fiberglass, and we went to a prop auction, and I bought him in a prop auction.
That is cool.
Yeah.
What'd you do with it?
I sold it to a fish farm.
Nice.
Yeah. So they took him and they gave him a fresh coat of paint. They sent it to an airbrush place. They repainted it, and they hung him in the main showroom of the fish like restaurant. And when you walk in, they have like all these like fish on the wall, or these like mantles, and in the middle is Bruce, 14 feet big, hung, and the kids come in and take selfies with him. So yeah,
Nice.
How
What
long
kind of profit was that?
Yeah, or how long did it take?
not enough. Not enough. So I made $800, and ultimately, that's one of the things. Would I do it again? Nah, it was too big. It was too big. I put it in the back of my pickup truck. People taking pictures of me going down the side of the road, but it was, I paid $1,200. I sold it for almost $2,000. And, it was worth it. But yeah, if I had to do it again, I'd much rather be buying and selling a little radio for like good money than I would with a 14-foot shark.
Yeah, but it's a cool story. So, you can't take that away.
It had 11,000 likes on Facebook.
There you go.
It was shared like 500 times. It was a
damn good Instagram account.
Yeah, Brucey is a celebrity in its own right.
Nice. All right. So, I've seen several episodes of Baggage Battles, and things get intense sometimes. And sometimes I don't know if it's, for the show or if it's real. What has been one of the most intense auction moments you had, whether it was on camera or was it off camera, where like it was you're about to throw down, but it got super intense? Or maybe you did throw down. I don't know. Whatever you want to share that doesn't legally cause you issues.
So the most recent, I was bidding on a watch for 30 grand, and we took it from 7,000 to 30,000, and I was nervous. Let
us know what it was.
Yeah, I can send you a pic of it. It was a 18 karat gold watch. I think it was an Meyer, and I'm probably saying the name wrong, but it was at a seizure auction, and it was worth about 52,000, and I said 30,000 is my limit. Now, let me tell you something. I've gotten into heated battles before, but when you're going 26,000, 27,000, 28,000, 29,000, 30,000, that's a whole other level of playing.
Yeah.
And that was in that I needed to like have line of credits out with the bank, like wired funds ready to go, because they don't allow, you can't let me go get the money.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have the money on you, which I won't do in that level of cash, or you have to have the wire transfer already ready to go. So the hardest part for me there was going back and forth. And then if I get it and then I'm tying up all this money, it was crazy. So it usually has to do with when I'm getting committed. That's when it gets really heavy, because you're committed. These are legal contracts. This is not an eBay auction. You don't walk away. Okay. You don't say, you know what? My 2-year-old was pressing the button and accidentally checked out this Nerf gun. No, this is like the federal police, like the federal auctions and the police auctions. You don't just walk away. So that was my best story in terms of most intense time. And there have been times that I've seen fist fights at auctions.
Oh man.
I've seen people throw at each other, stuff at each other. Maybe you can edit that.
We're good. It'll be in
the note marker 53, 58.
There you go. Hey, so you're kind of part of our club, like we had talked about before. Underneath that hat, are you
oh yeah, absolutely. So I will join your club, boys.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Hey.
We need to be sponsored by a beard and
yes.
Yeah. I think hair on the top of your head's a little overrated. As long as you got it on your face, you're good to go.
Yeah. I tell people I never lost my hair. It just fell down.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. That's perfect. There you go. Nice. So did you end up scoring on the watch, or did you end up just saying, hey, it's too much of a risk?
I got off the watch. It was just too much of a risk. I mean, to me, throwing around 35,000 to make 3,000 or 4,000 is not enough.
No, yeah,
it's not enough. And I also want you to know, at that very auction 2 years earlier, I paid $2,000 for a watch that was fake.
Oh,
and they would not take it back. And then that's part of the risk is it's $30,000. If this goes bad, oh, this is gonna be my year. That goes bad. So anyway, that's the high pressure game. And then the other thing about when you buy stuff out of state, Sometimes you be out of state and you could be alone and you're like, oh my God, I just bought all this stuff. Or you get in the heat of the moment. That's like the intense moments of an auction. You get to add like rigor and like total presence to what you're doing. Cause I've seen so many guys go off the rocker with he said something to me, and they get emotional and they start bidding and they lose it. You lost. The moment you get like emotionally connected like that, it's not going to serve you.
Yeah, you got to be calm, cool, and collected. I like that.
So, can I ask one more? Okay, so you're really intense right now on our podcast, which is great. It's entertaining. Like, we're loving it. So, at the auctions, is this how you are? Are you like low key, like hat down, like
Ooh, poker face?
So I used to play a ton of Texas Hold'em.
Nice.
And that's actually where the hat came from. So I wear hat and sunglasses. On an auction, you will see me be very quiet. Very quiet. So there's two strategies. So if you're new to an auction and you want to go there, be observant. Just observe. Don't bid. Don't go there saying you're going to be like top auction king. Go there and observe, see what's going on. Make sure you're paying attention to like the details of the auction, the removal period. And if you're an introvert, I would invite you to be up front, because the auctioneer is not going to be able to easily hear or see an introvert that's 55 feet away from him. I'm an extrovert. I'll throw something in the air. I'll yell across. If I feel the auctioneer is going to drop the hammer and he's not paying attention to me, I will scream at an auction to get his attention. I have no issues with that. I don't want to do that, because then it says to everyone, oh, it's that guy who's bidding. and he's excited. So if you see me at an auction, generally I would be very low key. In fact, I wore one of my hats to one of the auctions and people started looking me up. And then the next time I came, I wore like a camouflage shirt and like a plain hat, because I wanted to be like, I want to have like no trace. I want to be like, I don't know, James Bond, like no trace there.
Well, that's good to know.
Mystery over here.
It seems better. I mean, because like on baggage battles, like everybody had their own personality, right? There, but it was for show. But I don't know. Maybe that's how it was legitimately. But like everybody had like their own character kind of style, right? So Mark was like, you were like the young gun on the show, right? And then you had the older individuals that they were funny too. I mean, it was a great show. But anyways, so talk to me a little bit. You shared a little bit about your failure just now. And we like to talk about failure because we learn through our failure. We say you pay for education. I don't know, $2,000 seems like a lot for an education, but
I didn't do it again.
So talk to us. First of all, let's start on the low end. So what have been some of your biggest failures that you've had? Oh, did you have a question? Did I cut you off, Mike?
No, you're good. You've already asked yours, so.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going back to Mike's question, but what was some of your biggest failures and then some of your biggest successes?
So I'm going to say my biggest failure was a $2,000 watch, for sure. And my other failure that was pretty brutal, I bought a storage room when I was really early, and I didn't realize that the storage owners of the facilities were setting up the rooms. And that was a $20 room that cost me like $300 in labor, another $150 in a dump, and it had my stuff. It was just not a good room, and it was totally set up by the owners.
Okay, so when you say setting up, you mean that the owners like took what they wanted and they left the room pretty much?
The owners like put a bunch of units in one room and took everything of value out, and then basically made like a garbage room. Anyway, that was the price I paid when I was new. And I also still made money at that auction, just not with that room. That room was like, there was like live mice in there. And then I learned it was just not a good idea. Next, successes. My best day at the flea market, I did $4,300 in cash. Nice. with 2 and 3 employees getting a bunch of booths. I had I really recommend estate buyouts, buying an entire estate, because the value there is really high. A woman called me, here's the deal, and this happens all the time in real estate. The property's going to close. The contents are not worth a significant amount of money to have someone do an auction, but there's stuff there. So what we'll do is I'll come in and I'll buy the right of removal, and I'll clear the house out of salvageable stuff because the next person that comes in is getting a dumpster and they're clearing it all out. So that's a big asset. One story I'll tell, on the North Shore up here, a woman called me. They had an entire machine shop in the basement. The thing is they built the house, they built the basement, lowered the machines in the basement, and then built the house on top of it.
Oh, jeez.
So we couldn't get the machines out. And if we did, it would have been $1,000 a day rigor. And the machines aren't worth it. So we had to leave them. But what we did is we went down there and stripped all the tooling off of them, which was worth a ton of money. We filled an entire truck, an entire van in a day. I was exhausted. But in that stuff alone, we paid her $1,200 and we made about $7,500.
Nice.
Wow. Nice.
And it was good stuff like, tools and just like tons and tons and tons of stuff. It was a lifelong collection. There were books from the 1800s written in German in color with the locomotive of like original steam locomotives from the 1800s. It was like an unbelievable estate. And most of the stuff was covered in mold, but like we still were able to get the metal and a lot of stuff out into the open. Snap-on tools, like tons of great stuff. So that's probably one of my best scores. And I recently sold an amplifier for $7,000.
Oh, nice.
So old tube amplifiers, keep a lookout. If you come across old tube amplifiers, if they're $50, $75 at a yard sale, look them up and snap them up, because a lot of tube amplifiers are very sought after.
It's good to know.
Good. Yeah. So, you've got me convinced. Like I need to try this. I need to scale up a little bit and do a little bit of auctioning. Question. So you've already given us great tips as far as go and observe for a while. So let's say I observe 5-6 times. I kind of get the feel for what's going on. I'm starting to realize how it works. I could rent a truck, obviously, that kind of stuff. But what would you say to the person who's starting out? They're just getting started. What are some essential things that you need in order to process your first pallet or to go to your first auction and make a bid on something? Like, what do you need to have in place in order to make it work?
I think the intention before, like, what is your intention with purchasing this? It's a really good question to ask, because there are lots that I'll look at and be like, hey, I know someone that could use that. Let me call them. Is the intention to go on eBay? Well, then you'd need an eBay account. Is the intention to flip locally on Facebook? Because if you're just starting out and you don't have the infrastructure of a business or eBay or Amazon, then you're really going to be flipping to Facebook Marketplace. I mean, that's a basic free service, great exposure. And I see entire guys run virtual yard sales and they list everything they have for sale, right? And then they people link up and they buy and they sell and they trade and they do this whole circle. So that's what I would do, is really, what's your intention? And are you trying to make money? Or are you trying to make money in 6 months from now? We know that reselling is really like what I would call a long-term play. It takes time to get paid. And if you're starting out, it's going to take time. So like, what's your intention with going there and doing that? Observe, get your bidding card. If you have a license and a resale certificate, automatically you're 8% better than your competition. Because I don't pay sales tax on purchases because I'm a dealer, because we charge sales tax in the booth. So those would be my advice. I would get some basic tools and trucks. Also, you don't have to go there with vehicles that are required to removal. Most auctions you'll go to, you go, you pay, you might have a removal of 1 or 2 hours, but most people that are like patient, they pay, they leave, they go home, they say hi to their kids and wife, they go to sleep, they come back the next day with their box truck. Once you buy, you'll know how much you're going to need. So don't buy the cart before you buy the horse. Isn't there an expression like that?
Yeah.
Right? Like, yeah, don't put
the cart before the horse.
That's the expression.
Yeah.
That one.
So, and then rent the U-Haul, rent the box truck, and then at some point, obviously, buy the box truck, right? Because I mean, there's going to be a math equation for when a box truck is worth it for you to own. It is expensive, and I don't know whoever's listening, I don't know where you are, but I will tell you, in New York, commercial insurance on a box truck is like $6,000 plus the box truck and everything else. So we run passenger vans that can haul,
And if I needed to, I would rent. Many businesses rent for a very, very long time because you may only need a box truck once a week. And when you amortize that, I recommend doing an equation. It's going to take a while before you want to own a box truck.
Yeah. Well, that's a great, I mean, passenger vans are great. I mean, when Toys R Us was liquidating, I used passenger vans and I was able to fill up that van with a lot of stuff. So that's good. Okay. All right. So that's so many. We're going to have you back on. We're not done yet though, but we are going to have to have you back on, Mark. So hopefully it won't be another 6 months, but we'll see how it goes. So when you mentioned, so there's different ways of doing it. So auctions are good. And you mentioned Auction Zip, right? And Auction Zip is pretty much the go-to for everybody to find auctions. Is that pretty much it?
I would recommend. So one thing I wanted to touch on, if you're listening, build your network.
Yes.
Build your network. Get a sneaker guy. Get this guy. Get a record guy. Get the people that in your business so that you have a Rolodex of like who you can go to. When because like you don't really in reselling, like you don't know, you can get on a garage sale and find a bunch of stuff and you don't know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. Get a guy that knows what to do with it, even if you don't know. And I would really, really build your network, which is something that is highly supportive, and it's really supportive.
Now I will say that, and that's one of the reasons I didn't get into storage auctions, because you got to know people, right? So you first find your furniture guy, you find your sneaker guy, and that took, would you say, several years? And are you still looking for people, or you pretty much have a go-to for most of your stuff?
It depends. Honestly, like I really enjoy having eBay and Amazon as my go-to. Okay. Because there's always a guy that says, "Oh, when you have knives, you call me." There's always a guy that says that. And there's always a guy, there's a guy for everything. Mm-hmm. There's a guy at the flea market, which is a dime guy. He comes to buy silver dimes from me, and all he buys is dimes. So like, trust me, there's a seat for every, And
you're referring to donkey on that one. No, go ahead. It's all good.
So another marker, 1 minute, 7 seconds. Markers.
We're good.
Build your network. All right. And you'll get the structure down. I do have like a fishing pole guy. Mm-hmm. So I have these things kind of set up. And I do recommend, and it's going to take you time, and don't be afraid to fail. The biggest thing that people get hung up on this business is, I sold it too cheap. Let it go. What did you buy it for? Let it go, right? We don't have to get the whole market. But if you're going to sell to a dealer, he needs to make some too. So like sometimes I'm always like, oh, I sold it too cheap. But then I'm like, hey, if I didn't sell it for that, I'd still have it. Yep. So there's a balance of compassion and education here, and you're not going to know everything. And your lister that you want to hire, allow them to make mistakes. It's going to happen. Build that as an acceptance, and you're going to be able to scale. The small amount of mistakes that they could make is not worth the great extension of where your sales could go.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. That's really good. That's a Mark Meyer quote. Right there. Quote of the week. Hey, so flea markets, real quick. So how do you, like, I would find it, I don't know, being that I'm on eBay, like I list everything high, right? But on the flea market, it's the inverse, right? You're just trying to offload stuff. How do you make it profitable? Like, do you just set up and you're just willing to take whatever, or how do you set that up?
Flea markets, to be honest, if it can go online, it goes online. If it doesn't sell, I put it out at the flea market. If it's $25, $30 or less, I'll put it out at the flea market. Okay. If it's a DeWalt drill that's super common that everybody needs, I won't put it on eBay, because we'll just take it to the flea market and get 70 cents of eBay money, which to me is the same.
Right. All right. Okay, good. I just need to know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, of a load, it depends. Like the last load in the Boston estate, 60% of the truck was flea market and antiques. The other 40% was online. So that 60% goes to the flea market instantly. And when I go to the flea market, I'm not going there to show off my stuff. I'm going there to unload. So my prices are competitive or extra competitive because I'm not going there to be a flea market vendor every week. I'm going there to unload my stuff so I can go buy big loads again to move past it.
That's good. And so how often is the flea market thing? Is it once a month, once a week for you?
So I go to the flea market about 4 to 6 times a year, and it depends. Some years I've gone once, sometimes I've gone 10. And I'll also do Brimfield. So up on the East Coast here, Brimfield is the biggest antique market that we have. It's the biggest open air antique market in the world. It's got 4,000 plus vendors. So I'll go when I have the merchandise. If I can get Amazon goods and eBay goods all the time, I wouldn't deal in the flea market stuff. But it's like a byproduct. It's like when you're mining for platinum, you get all those other metals too. I'm mining for the e-commerce gold.
Nice. There you go.
Nice. That's good. Well, I got a question for you, and this one is one I try to ask a lot of our the people we have on the show. You are clearly like a super competent guy. You've got a great perspective on stuff. I mean, you've said so many things that are going to probably change the way Orlando and I are going to resell. And I know so many of our listeners are going to take a lot from it. I mean, it's just clear you can articulate yourself. You're wise. You're not just throwing out numbers. Like, you know what you're doing. So because of that, I'm really interested. What would you say is like the one thing, like life advice that you live by or would like our listeners to know? Like, here's maybe a motto or a phrase or something, a piece of advice that kind of you stand by, or something that we can kind of take and apply to our lives.
Yeah, I didn't send them that question.
I ask it almost every week, man.
I know.
Add it to the question list.
Have a strategy, not a plan. In this reselling game, the work I'm doing today, I won't get paid for weeks or months or maybe years from now. So having a real plan, having a strategy is really the best thing that I could advise someone with. And the reason I advise on a strategy is because a plan is not flexible. A plan is, when I make $10,000, I'm going to go do this. When I make 20, I'm going to go hire this guy. When 30,000, I'm going to get a plan is very structured. A strategy can bend and mold to what's going on. And the reason plans don't work so well is because when a plan doesn't happen, when something doesn't happen in a plan, it crumbles. A strategy can move, mold, and bend to the circumstances that you're in right now. So I don't have a plan in this COVID crisis right now. I have a strategy. My strategy is to go through everything that I have that's available for sale and to deplete and to have everything listed. And then when everything's listed, I'm going to start plummeting. I'm going to start dropping sale prices to start emptying out my bins, to raise capital, to give my guys work to pack. And my strategy is, at the end of this, I'm going to have inventory light and be cash rich. That's a strategy. A plan is more like, in July, I'm going to have my business be open. I'm going to go to the flea market and I'm going to go do this. And then July happens and we're still in a crisis and I'm crying in a corner. Have a strategy, because strategies mold, bend, and move to what you need to happen. And intention. Where do you want to go in 3 years? Where do you want to go in 5 years? If you're serious about scaling and you're serious about, if you're going to have $1 million a year, you better be shipping $3,200 in product every day, because that's $1 million. So if you're shipping $3,200 in product a day, you also have to be listing like $4,000 in product every day, because you're not going to sell 100% of what you list. So like being realistic, having time-bound goals, thinking 3-5 years ahead, having a strategy, not a plan, and adapting to the environment. That's my piece of advice.
That's some amazing solid advice. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, but that's the thing. Adapting. I love what you said, because we don't know. And so having a strategy, it's so good. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. No matter how old I get, I'm 40 now. I'm always learning. I'm going to feel the same way when I'm 60 and I'm 80 and 100 and whatever else. All right. So the last question I want to end on, because this is super pivotal, super key. We always ask this, but now it's more of a very serious question. Where do you see the future of reselling in the coming years, or even this coming year? Where do you see things going?
The future of reselling, I think, is going to be more online. 100%. I think that it's a train, it's a locomotive that's not slowing down. So the future of reselling is going to continue to be pushed online and continue to be a service-based business. I think it's networking and services that really define reselling, and getting your word out there that this is what you do and this is what you're interested in, and also consignments. I think it's all customer service. I think that it's how fast you can get these products to the customers. And I think it's about great listings and giving people great deals they can't find elsewhere. That's where I see the future of reselling. And I'd also like to share what I see in my future.
All right.
So I'm scaling up to buy a building, as I just told you guys earlier. So I'm looking at something 5,000 square feet. My intention is to get bigger and to scale, and to also to get my costs down. So I'm moving off of Long Island, and I'm also excited to share. I've been working really hard on YouTube videos, and we have some that are going to be released next week. Nice. And I'm getting intentional about my brand, about bringing awareness in the secondhand market, because I love sustainability. And a lot of things get thrown away in the landfill. And I know I can look at these two beautiful bald men with me, that we are saving lots of stuff from the landfill and giving them a second lease on life. And that's something I'm so passionate about.
Yeah, there's a whole another side of you, Mark, we haven't talked about, like for the environment and your causes and just helping out there. So yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. Sustainability is a big deal. So, well, so you feel encouraged that things are gonna keep moving forward, and it's just gonna be about adapting.
Well, you don't get a 5,000 square foot storage unit.
Yeah, I know.
If you're not optimistic.
I just thought I'd throw that out there. So
I'm optimistic that. All right, so I'll also share something about the future of reselling. There are a lot of opportunities with dealers right now. So antiques in general, a lot of antique dealers at the flea market, they're older generation. There's been a vacuum in my area recently as those older antique, knowledgeable, brilliant antique dealers move on in life. There's a vacuum for what they used to buy. So I'm getting phone calls now, because I've been doing this a while, that, hey, there's like no antique dealers in this area anymore, and nobody knows where to turn. You should go pass out flyers. My purpose of saying this is, if you look at most antique dealers, any antique flea market, a lot of them are older generations, and they're retiring, and they're moving on. So to those young resellers listening to this right now, there's opportunity with the fact that millennials don't want their parents' stuff. And there's a surplus of it, and they don't really appreciate it, because and I'm a millennial, we want the latest electronics. We don't want our parents' stuff. And there's a huge surplus of those phone calls. Hey, my mom just wants to get rid of all her stuff. Or I got my mom's stuff. We sold the house for $400,000. Just come give us $2,000 for the rest of it and take it out. My intention of sharing that is there's opportunity. There's incredible amounts of opportunity out there.
That's really good. Okay.
That's awesome.
Got to make some phone calls this week.
That's right. Yeah. No, I mean, just to be honest, we have a lot of people on, and all of the people we have on it have been great. But, there's a handful that really shine as far as like, hey, this is probably going to legitimately change some of the ways that we resell. And so, I'm super encouraged. I told Orlando earlier, I feel like I've been a little lazy with reselling recently, so much time at home, and I have to drive to my office and spend I got to get through some listings and stuff. But when you talk to somebody as passionate and as devoted as you are, it's definitely one of those shots of adrenaline that you need to kind of be like, all right, let's do this. So really appreciate having you on, man.
Thank you. Go ahead.
No, all I was going to say is I knew it was going to be a great show, because I've been following you for a while, Mark, but man, you just took it to the next level. And I think all our listeners will comment the same below, and hopefully thumbs up this video too, because Mark, you've unloaded a lot of information that some people would have to pay for, right? Yeah. Some people would have to get a mentor, and you were so willing to share, and we really, really are grateful for that. Thanks a lot, Mark.
You're welcome. It's going to be great, and I'm intending to share more trade secrets. There's more on my YouTube. And if you want to know about auctions, go check them out, because I have literally a specific video for every style of auction on YouTube that handles what you can expect, what you'll be up against, and what to bring.
Yeah, where can our listeners find you? Could you real quick just kind of give your...
So
your
you
spiel?
can find me at Mark Meyer here, and that's at Instagram and on YouTube. And I'm getting really passionate about going on YouTube because we have a lot of videos that we're working on, including a video called Where to Find the Money in Your Home.
Nice.
To help out people in the coronavirus that want to raise extra money but don't know where it is right now. So that's literally, we're having a meeting tomorrow night. So I'm excited to get that out.
Oh, so awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, we'll definitely drive people to your videos. So
Yeah. So if you're not subscribed already, go check him out. I mean, he's dropping amazing stuff. If he was willing to give this much to us, just imagine what's on his channel. So get over there as quick as you can.
So, all right, Mark. Well, thanks so much, and thank you to all our listeners. And really, it's been incredible.
Yeah.
So, and with that being said, hey, make sure to be real,
Be relevant,
and be reselling plates.